Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Laken Tomlinson was obviously released from the New York Jets, saving $8.1 million against the cap, which is great, right? Extra money for the Jets to, invest in the team. But now we have a vacancy at left guard. Yes, Laken Tomlinson was not all that productive in the running game, in the passing game. We know this. We know he was not worth the $18+ million that he was owed. But the one thing about Laken was that he played. Right, he was actually out there on a week-to-week basis. He was consistent and durable in that regard. Now we have to find a replacement. The good news for the Jets, of course, again, we have that extra cash, but there's plenty of options out there. And I wanted to talk about a couple of left guard options that the Jets, in my opinion, should be all over in less than a month when legal tampering period opens up. So let's start off with the first guard here, Kevin Zeitler from the Baltimore Ravens. Now, there has been some rumblings that Zeitler could be back with the Ravens next season, but if he hits the open market, the Jets need to be all over it. Now, it's pretty disappointing because the Jets Joe Douglas had an opportunity to go out and sign Kevin Zeitler when he was initially released from the New York Giants, but there was no interest there. So a bit of a tough pill to swallow, especially looking at what he's done with the Ravens. I mean, he's been, he's playing some of the best football of his entire career. That's not an over-exaggeration. Kevin Zeitler has been doing really, really good things. Coming in at 6'4", 340 pounds, Zeitler only allowed 2 sacks last year. Zeitler could also be an option to just be that one-year bridge guy, but also maybe even a 2-year contract. I think he's a clear upgrade over Laken Tomlinson, and he obviously wouldn't cost $18+ million a season. So, if you're the Jets here, you're essentially saving a bunch of money and upgrading massively at the same position. That, to me, is a no-brainer. Of course, it's going to, if Baltimore wants it back and they have the money to, give him, it'll be hard to pry him away. Right, especially because the Jets are still, fighting the uphill battle to, get, into the playoffs, where Baltimore's pretty much like a lock every single season. But we'll see how it plays out. Kevin Zeitler is such an interesting and intriguing option for sure. Next up, former member of the New Orleans Saints, Andrus Peat. At 30 years old, Peat is absolutely humongous, coming in at 6'7". Peat really brings a lot of versatility to the table as well. He's played left tackle, he's played right tackle, and of course, left guard. In fact, from 2017 through 2019, he was playing some of the best guard football in the entire NFL. 3 straight Pro Bowls, right? A dominant beast in the running game. Now, a couple of downsides: he's missed a lot of time, he's been hurt a lot, as well as his play hasn't really been all that great compared to when he was performing at a really high level, right? And it's not just, it's weird because Pete, I don't want to sit here and say he's declining as a football player and his best days are, behind him, because he's only 30, and maybe a change of scenery could really help him, especially if he has some more talent around him. He's for sure a guy that I'm interested in, and I feel like he, again, is an upgrade over what the Jets currently have. He's an upgrade over Laken Tomlinson, and he does check the box of adding that little bit of versatility. Both sides of the football, it can bounce out the tackle if you need him to. I'm really interested in James Hurst as well from the Saints, but that's more so a depth move. But Andrus Peat, an interesting option for sure. Now, probably my favorite option here is center from the Miami Dolphins, Connor Williams, former left guard of the Dallas Cowboys. Connor Williams, man, if we can not only just pry him away from the division rival Dolphins, but add him to this team, I mean, for the past couple of seasons with the Dolphins, he has been one of the best centers in football. Now, it's still unclear what the Jets' exact plan is going to be at guard. There's a chance that we can move Tippmann over to guard. Personally, I want to keep him at center, but with the Jets regime, we don't really know what to expect at this point, especially with Hackett being the offensive coordinator. So, you're looking at the O-line. Yes, we have Tippmann coming back. In the event that he is, scheduled to be a guard, Connor Williams can fill in beautifully as the team's center. He's only 26 years old. If not, if Tittman is the, center of the future, you can bring Williams in and he can be the starting left guard and put up great play. And he has years of experience there, again, dating back to his Cowboys days. He is really good in pass protection and run blocking. The downside here with Connor Williams, he only played in 9 games a year ago, and he's penalized quite a lot. I believe he was actually penalized 7 times in those 9 games. So something to clean up there. But I mean, man, a 26-year-old, he's kind of entering his prime now. I think the Jets need to be all over this. They really do. I think a couple of other interesting options, although I don't know how realistic they are, because they were literally available not too long ago, and the Jets had zero interest. And we were talking about adding them as depth pieces. So if the Jets have zero interest in adding these guys as backups, what are the chances that the Jets are now interested in them becoming the go-to starters? I'm talking about Dalton Risner and Ezra Cleveland. Again, 2 guys that were available for, it's not like these guys went for first round picks or second round picks or anything like that, right? With their new respected teams, as far as the compensation, was concerned. But in my opinion, Cleveland and Risner are both upgrades over, again, I sound like a broken record, but they're upgrades over Laken. They're upgrades over what we currently have. I'm bringing one in, right? If nothing works out with, any of the top 3 guys that we mentioned, would anybody really be like pissed off and upset if the Jets signed Ezra Cleveland to a cheap 1-year contract, or Dalton Risner as like a 1-year stopgap? Like, is that really going to be the Achilles heel of the offensive line? Is that going to be the downfall of the team? In my opinion, no. You just look at the financials. $18+ million to what these guys are getting paid. That's a win in and of itself. Here's another interesting option. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's been talked about a lot. Bringing back Connor McGovern on another cheap deal, and then playing either McGovern or Tittman at, the guard and center positions, right? So just essentially doing what we did last year. Now, obviously, it didn't work out last year. McGovern got hurt and missed time. Tittman was still a young player. This is kind of my outlook on the whole thing. When it comes to Tittman and AVT, we need to pick positions for them and just keep them there. We can't, yes, versatility is awesome, but you can't have your best, in my opinion, you can't have your best offensive lineman jumping all around from week to week, not knowing where he's playing. I think from a football standpoint, it could stunt his growth as far as potential ceiling at a given position if he's constantly, 1 week he's right tackle, next week he's right guard, next week he's left tackle. I'm not saying that's how, crazy it's been for AVT, but I mean, he's literally played every single position outside of center for the Jets offense, and he was in the same draft class as Zach Wilson. So again, literally left tackle, left guard, right tackle. Pick a position for AVT and just lock him in. And that way he could really start becoming one of the best, because I truly believe in Vera Tucker. I do. I think he has a ton of potential, a ton of talent, a really high floor. I want to see him grow as a player and become one of the best at whatever position they decide to put him at, because again, I really do feel like he can continue to rise. And then with Tittman, ideally I want him at center, because I think it's pretty, I mean, again, we're talking about all these different guard options. We haven't even mentioned the draft. Or waiver claims or trades. So there's plenty of options for guard. I think it's harder to find a center, a long-term building block at center, than it is at guard. And then, of course, we got to fill in the rest. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you want the Jets to do at left guard / center now? Tittman, one of these free agents. Personally, I think my number 1 choice, Connor Williams. Get him in the building. If you can't get him, Zeitler is probably my number 2, and then Peat is probably number 3. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.